I could never imagine that a conversation with a stranger could literally save your life. Until I found myself crying in Big Mike's barbershop on a random Tuesday afternoon in Memphis, Tennessee. Let me back up. 6 months earlier, I thought I had it all figured out. Kaisha Washington, 38 years old, living in a beautiful house in East Memphis with Marcus, my partner of 4 years. We'd been talking marriage, kids, the whole 9 yards. I was working as a marketing coordinator for a non-profit, had my little savings account growing, and honestly believed I was manifesting my dream life. Then came that Thursday evening in March when everything shattered. I walked into our bedroom and found Marcus packing. Not just a weekend bag, everything. His clothes, his cologne, even that stupid Lakers jersey I'd bought him for Christmas. When I asked what was happening, he couldn't even look me in the eye. I've been seeing someone else, Kaisha, for 8 months. 8 months. While I was planning our future, visualizing us growing old together, practicing gratitude for our relationship every morning, he was building a whole other life behind my back. I'm moving in with her, he continued, his voice flat like he was discussing the weather. She's pregnant. I remember the exact sound my world made when it collapsed like glass breaking in slow motion, each piece cutting deeper than the last. The next few months were a blur of lawyers, moving trucks, and sleepless nights. I had to sell our house, couldn't afford it alone. Ended up in a tiny 1-bedroom apartment in Midtown, listening to my upstairs neighbors fight every night. My savings account, once growing steadily, drained fast between legal fees and starting over expenses. But the worst part, the voice in my head that whispered constantly, "You manifested this somehow. You weren't grateful enough. You didn't visualize clearly enough. You failed." By September, I was barely functioning. Going through the motions at work, coming home to my empty apartment, ordering takeout for one, again. I'd stopped journaling, stopped my gratitude practice, stopped believing that the universe was listening to anything I had to say. Friends kept telling me I needed to get back out there. But how do you trust again when everything you believed about creating your reality feels like a cruel joke? That's what brought me to Big Mike's that Tuesday. I'd been walking aimlessly through the Cooper Young neighborhood, trying to clear my head after another brutal therapy session, when it started pouring rain. Not that gentle Memphis drizzle, a full-on downpour that soaked through my jacket in seconds. The closest shelter was this old-school barbershop with a red and blue pole spinning outside. Through the window, I could see it was packed with men getting cuts, but I was desperate. I pushed through the door, dripping wet and probably looking like I'd been through a tornado. The whole place went quiet for a second. Then this mountain of a man behind the first chair had to be 6'5", with the most perfectly trimmed beard I'd ever seen, looked up and smiled. "Baby girl, you look like you need more than just a place to dry off. Have a seat right here." He gestured to an empty chair in the corner. That's when I completely lost it. Started sobbing right there in front of all these strangers. Not pretty crying, ugly, soul-deep wailing that comes from months of holding everything in. Instead of being uncomfortable, Big Mike, that's what everyone called him, handed me a box of tissues and kept working on his client's fade like women crying in his shop was the most natural thing in the world. "Marcus Jenkins?" he asked quietly. I looked up, shocked. How did he know Marcus? He used to come in here. Until about 8 months ago. Mike's voice carried a tone I couldn't quite place. "Heard through the grapevine what happened. Some men don't deserve the good women they get." The other guys in the shop nodded in agreement, and suddenly I felt held by this community of strangers in a way I hadn't felt held in months. "You know what I learned about starting over?" Mike continued, his hands steady as he worked. "It ain't about getting back to who you were. It's about discovering who you're meant to become." Something in his voice made me listen closer. "My wife left me 12 years ago. Took our daughter, moved to Atlanta with some finance guy. I was angry, bitter, drinking too much. Lost this shop. Lost my apartment. Ended up staying with my mama at 45 years old. The buzzing of clippers filled the silence. But sitting in my childhood bedroom at rock bottom, I started reading this book my sister gave me. The Power of Intention by Wayne Dyer. Thought it was nonsense at first. All this talk about vibrational alignment and attracting abundance. But I was desperate enough to try anything. My ears perked up. I knew those concepts. Had practiced them for years before Marcus destroyed my faith in everything. Started small, Mike continued. Every morning I'd sit on Mama's porch and just picture this shop exactly how I wanted it. Not hoping or wishing seeing it. Feeling the satisfaction of building something that was truly mine. Practicing gratitude for the skills in my hands, even when I had nowhere to use them. He finished his client and moved to cleaning his station, but kept talking. Took 2 years, but everything I visualized started showing up. First, I got a job at another shop downtown. Then a regular customer offered to loan me money to open my own place. Then this building became available right when I needed it. But here's the thing nobody tells you about manifestation, he said, looking directly at me. It's not about controlling outcomes. It's about becoming the person who naturally attracts what you desire. And sometimes, what you desire changes as you grow. I felt something shift inside me, not hope exactly, but curiosity. What do you mean? I asked. Well, I spent months trying to manifest getting my wife back. Did all the visualization, all the affirmations. She loves me. She's coming home. We're meant to be together. But the universe had other plans. He gestured around the shop, bustling with conversation and community. This became my life. These men, this neighborhood. Building something that matters. And 2 years ago, I met Denise at the community center where I volunteered teaching kids to cut hair. She's nothing like my ex-wife, and our love is nothing like what I lost. It's deeper, more real, built on who I actually am instead of who I thought I should be. The rain had stopped, but I wasn't ready to leave. The hardest part, Mike continued, was forgiving myself for all the time I wasted believing I wasn't worthy of good things. That's the real work, not just raising your vibration, but healing the part of you that thinks you deserve the pain. Those words hit me like lightning. I had been punishing myself for months, convinced that my failed relationship was proof that I was somehow broken, that I'd never get the law of attraction right. How do you start over when you don't trust yourself anymore? I asked. You start by being kind to the woman who's been through hell, he said simply. You wouldn't talk to your best friend the way you've been talking to yourself, would you? I shook my head, feeling tears coming again, but different tears this time. Listen, I don't know you, but I can see you're a good woman who got dealt a bad hand. That doesn't make you a bad manifester or whatever. That makes you human. He handed me a small card with his shop's information. You come back here whenever you need reminding of that. This community got room for people who are rebuilding. Walking home that evening, something had shifted. Not dramatically, I wasn't suddenly cured of heartbreak or ready to start dating. But for the first time in months, I felt like maybe, just maybe, there was a path forward that didn't involve getting back what I'd lost. That night, I pulled out my old journal. The pages were dusty, the last entry from February when I was still living in Fantasyland about Marcus and me. Instead of writing about what I wanted to manifest, I wrote a letter to myself. Dear Kaisha, you are not broken. You are not a failure. You loved fully and got betrayed. And that says nothing about your worth and everything about his character. You deserve kindness, especially from yourself. It was a start. Over the next few weeks, I found myself stopping by Big Mike's shop regularly. Not crying anymore, just sitting in that corner chair, listening to the conversations, feeling part of something bigger than my own pain. I started small with my manifestation practice. Not trying to attract a new relationship or undo the past, but focusing on rebuilding my relationship with myself. I'd wake up and instead of immediately thinking about what went wrong, I'd ask, what does Kaisha need today? Sometimes the answer was as simple as making a real breakfast instead of grabbing a granola bar. Sometimes it was taking a walk along the Mississippi River and practicing gratitude for my health, my job, my ability to start fresh. I began attending Dr. Joe Dispenza's online meditations, working on rewiring the neural pathways that kept me stuck in victim mode. The concept of quantum manifestation, that we can literally change our reality by changing our internal state, started making sense in a way it never had before. But the real breakthrough came in November. I was at Big Mike's on a Saturday afternoon when he mentioned that the community center was looking for someone to help with their marketing for a new program, supporting single mothers. The pay wasn't much, but it was exactly the kind of work that lit me up, using my skills to help women rebuild their lives. I could do that, I said, surprising myself with how quickly the words came out. I figured you might. Mike smiled. The director's coming by at 4 if you want to meet her. That's when I realized what had been happening. Without consciously trying to manifest a new job, I'd been aligning my vibration with service, community, and healing. The opportunity didn't feel like coincidence. It felt like synchronicity. 3 months later, I was running the marketing for 3 different community programs, making more money than I ever had at the nonprofit, and working with women whose stories made me grateful for my own journey. But the biggest manifestation wasn't professional, it was personal. In January, exactly 1 year after Marcus destroyed our life together, I ran into him at Whole Foods. He looked older, tired, pushing a cart with baby formula and someone else's groceries. For months, I dreaded this moment, worried I'd fall apart or say something I'd regret. Instead, I felt nothing but compassion for him, for the woman he'd left me for all of us just trying to figure out how to be human. Kaisha, he said, looking genuinely surprised to see me looking so alive. You look amazing. Different. I feel different, I said honestly. I hope you're well, Marcus. I really do, and I meant it. There was no anger left, no attachment to outcomes, no need for apologies or explanations, just vibrational alignment with my own peace. Walking to my car, I realized this was what the universe had been preparing me for all along. Not to get Marcus back, but to discover that I could love someone completely, lose them completely, and still be completely whole. That night, I called Big Mike to thank him. You didn't save me, I told him, but you reminded me I was worth saving. Baby girl, he laughed. You saved yourself. I just gave you a safe place to remember who you were. Looking back now, 8 months later, I can see how perfectly everything unfolded. The betrayal that felt like the end of my story was actually the beginning of my real life. Every painful step led me to discover strengths I never knew I had, work that truly matters, and a community that sees and values the woman I'm becoming. I'm not saying I manifested getting cheated on. That's not how the universal laws work. But I did manifest the resilience to transform that pain into purpose, the wisdom to see my worth independent of anyone else's choices, and the faith to trust that even when things fall apart, something better is being built. The barbershop is still my sanctuary. I stop by every Tuesday, not because I need rescuing anymore, but because that's where I learned the most important lesson of my life. Sometimes the universe answers your prayers by showing you that you never needed what you thought you wanted. I'm still single, still learning, still practicing gratitude for the journey that brought me here. And when I do meet the person meant to walk alongside this version of me, the healed, purposeful version, I'll know they're a match for who I actually am, not who I pretended to be to keep someone who wasn't meant to stay. That's the real magic of manifestation. It doesn't give you what you think you want. It transforms you into someone who attracts what you actually need. My dream life looks nothing like what I visualized 3 years ago. It's smaller in some ways, bigger in others, and infinitely more real. I wake up excited about my work, surrounded by genuine community, and deeply in love with the woman I've become. Marcus thought he was ending our story when he walked away. Instead, he set me free to write the most beautiful chapter of my life. And it's just getting started. If you've been through heartbreak that felt like the end of your world, but something inside you knows it might actually be the beginning of your real story, comment below. I trust the process. Let's remind each other that we're worth the journey of becoming who we're meant to be. If this story touched your heart, please like and share it with someone who needs to remember their own strength. And subscribe for more real stories about finding beauty in the breakdown and magic in the mess. The universe is always listening, especially when you're ready to listen to yourself.